fake news has risen to prominence in recent years, most notably with Donald Trump's presidential campaign and eventual election, where he popularized fake news when describing negative news coverage about his presidency.
And the fake news refused to call it, right?
Historically, fake news has long been part of our political structure in the form of propaganda and intentional misinformation in order to swing public opinion. However, President Trump's constant character questioning and negative treatment of the media seems foreign and uncalled for.
In this video, we will interview, compile, and compare opinions about the contemporary image of fake news from our university peers, aiming to find a consensus definition of fake news on our university.
Typically when I think about things, I tend to think about them in a completely literal sense. So to me, fake news is just news that is fake.
Whenever I hear fake news now, it's kind of like a meme, you know? It's just kind of like, oh, okay, this again. You know what I mean? It's not really a meaty thing to me, really. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh boy, fake news. So, there are two working definitions we have to go for. The first one being the obvious one, news that is fake, referring to sensationalized or otherwise propaganda-based media that is not in fact correct. And then the other, the more connotative thing would be the concept of dismissing media sources that disagree with the narrative you're trying to push.
I kind of think it means that he is fed up with certain news outlets that are obviously opposed to him, to the point where he's just not going to address them anymore.
The president is saying that the coverage against him that is negative is wrong, but what he is actually meaning is disregard the coverage against me that is wrong because it is negative.
Probably just anything that slags him off for any reason, because he needed to have a, I'll say decent public image, because he already does enough without quote-unquote fake news to ruin his public image as it is.
No. First Amendment, freedom of speech, you should be able to say whatever the heck you want, and, yeah.
No. No, because that leaves room for excessive censorship, and if you are doing your civic duty and taking in information from as many diverse news outlets as you can, you're going to be able to differentiate what is truthful versus what is not, and nobody should do that for you.
What I think could be done without doing too much to raise conflicts with the First Amendment would be sources of information that are, unofficial, like social media websites. They could certainly do more to de-emphasize things that lead to sensationalization of information and distortion that would be termed fake news in the first definition I gave.
I think as citizens, in order to contribute to society, because that's our job as citizens, it's our job to recognize what's fake news. It's important to be informed citizens, and I think if you're doing that, fake news isn't really that big a deal.
It's going to be an unpopular answer, but I'm going to say no, because there's a lot of things that don't impact American quote-unquote democracy, because America is a democratic republic. We have to keep in mind that Trump got in on the Electoral College, Hillary Clinton won the popular votes. So I don't think that any amount of fake news is going to change how much American democracy is affected.
During our interviews, we observed some consistent tendencies regarding feelings towards fake news on our campus. First, here at St. Edward's, fake news is held in a relatively negative regard. Students and staff see fake news as a distraction tactic, diverting our attention from information that really matters. Second, everyone that we interviewed agreed that monitoring fake news would be an infringement of the First Amendment and therefore unconstitutional. Last, our interviews all led to the consensus that people must understand news media in order to determine what fake news is and is not. In short, it is up to the person to educate themselves on what fake news is.